What's up, man? Can you hear me? Rayadav? Can you hear me all right? Oh, cool. Yeah. Ask me anything, man. Talk about anything. Just here to talk about stuff. Never done a live stream before. First time on my channel. Whatever you want to ask. If you watched any video before, you have questions. If you're training, you have questions. You like martial arts in general. Yeah, shoot whatever you want, man. Oh, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. That's really nice of you. They're fun to make. I've learned a lot. I will say by doing them, it's fun. I do like a study, and then I'm like reporting findings. They're always the funnest when I don't know what I'm looking for when I go in, and I just kind of figure it out as I go. But is there one that you like in particular? Is there one that you is there like a style you gravitate to? Oh, we got someone else in the chat now. Hey, what's going on? If there's a second person here, oh, here we go. Oh, wow. That's a good question. Oh, man. Ah. Alexander Karelin versus Tom Aspinall. Hmm. In MMA, right? Mixed martial arts or just like a street fight, street or like a total street fight. But I'm guessing you mean MMA. I think it's got to go Tom Aspinall in MMA. I think it has to, but I wouldn't be surprised if Karelin took him. I mean, Karelin's a bad man. Karelin's really tough. Hamzat, yeah, I think he'll be cool again. I think that once he comes back, um, he'll. I think he's gone through a period of inactivity, but Khabib went through a period of inactivity too. He had a lot of knee problems and had to recover from a lot of stuff, and that was a big part of his career. You know, a lot of fights fell through. A couple fights with Tony fell through. Missed weight a couple times, but at the end, we remember him really fondly, Khabib, even though there was like a big gap in between his record there. I think Hamzat will be like the same way. I believe when he comes back, he's really good. I don't know if you've seen like the leg riding breakdown, but that he's really got some great stuff, trapping those legs and setting up the punches with the legs. It's really good. Definitely someone to learn from. Umar beat O'Malley and Marab. O'Malley is he might be like Anderson Silva. He might be a better striker than Izzy. I've seen O'Malley do some crazy things at a weight class where he shouldn't be able to put people down like he does. Like I don't know if you guys have seen. Hold on. Like, let's look up some Sean O'Malley knockouts or something. Knockouts. He is 135 and he sends people to the graveyard. I mean, he absolutely sends people to the graveyard. I've never seen someone knock people out like he does. Let me throw in some highlights here.
So my plan is the price I pay every month.
You lower that. Can you guys see my screen all right? So I mean, to have knockouts like he has at 135, why does this do happening? Is pretty magnificent. Him and Taporia do have insane power. But I think, do you guys think Taporia has more knockout power than McGregor had when McGregor was fighting at 145? Because I may have seen Taporia level power at 145, but to have it at 135 is pretty incredible. This is pretty bad in terms of the streaming. I'm just gonna end there. You guys get it though. He's just at 135 to have that kind of knockout power and like really knocking them out bad. The spin kicks. Probably the best spin kicker in the UFC right now, Sean O'Malley. I don't think there is a better spin kicker. More accuracy, more power. Yeah, I can believe that. I can definitely believe that. I really miss Conor McGregor's fighting when he was at 145. I really believe he's a 145 pounder that went to 155, but should have gone back to 145 afterwards. At 145, with that style he had, especially I come from like a Taekwondo background. And to see the kicks combined with the punches was really cool. A lot of Taekwondo guys just aren't good with the punches. They get really kick heavy, and when you really pressure them, like they start to exhaust themselves because they're too kick heavy. But to see him have that left that was along with the kicks was incredible. To Max Holloway, Taporia versus Max Holloway. I might be a hater, but a lot of people have asked for a Taporia breakdown, right? And I think he's good, but I haven't seen what I've seen from Max Holloway from him, right? Max Holloway is. I remember I thought Cater could beat Max Holloway. I'm from Boston. I'm like, we float in the same circles, me and Cater. And I thought that Cater could beat Max Holloway. I thought this was our one chance at getting a champion from Boston. And that's just not what happened. That's just not what happened, if you guys remember. I think Taporia is winning, but I may be wrong. How old is Taporia? How old is Taporia now? The age is always a factor. Let me look that up. Ilya Taporia. So he's 27, and Max Holloway is how old? How old is Max Holloway? Max Holloway is 32. So I don't think the age will be a factor. I think that Max Holloway. Oh, it's a good fight though. I gotta go Holloway, but if Taporia wins, I'll remember this conversation. Taporia put Volkanovski away. I think. Do you guys think the Islam fight was a big factor in that though? How much was the gap between the Islam fight and the Taporia fight? I mean, it wasn't more than 6 months, and to have that kind of head damage heading into a fight, 4 months, yeah. So 4 months. I definitely believe the Islam fight was a factor in the Volkanovski loss with Taporia. Not to take anything away from Taporia, but Volkanovski played his last 2 fights a little recklessly. Hey man, what's up? I'm fighting in 2 weeks, and I love your videos. They help me. Oh, cool, man. Cool. Tell me about your fight. We got someone fighting here. Cadu Lanes. But yeah, Taporia versus Holloway, that should be an interesting one. If Taporia beats Holloway, a breakdown on Taporia is coming out. That's that's the deal. If Taporia beats Holloway, then a breakdown on Taporia. Yeah, Islam fight was a big factor. I think Alex was not the same person after that fight. If Alex fought Ilya before Islam, yeah. So guys, anyone that's looking to have an MMA career out there, you really need to understand courage in this sport is a balance between recklessness and cowardness, right? You're always going to be trying to strike the balance. So many people are going to try to get you to fight by calling you a pussy. I have seen the most incredible things where fighters will do anything if somebody calls them a pussy, and they'll jump through hoops and they'll fight the scariest guy at the worst time. You need to, if you're a fighter and you're watching this, you really need to balance recklessness and cowardness. You can't be too reckless. You have to build yourself up kind of slow, but you also do have to challenge yourself. You can't just fight bums forever. It's definitely starting to become more like boxing. But that right hand he KO'd Volk with. Very casually they cut. It's good to know. A lot of things are like a balance like this. In the fight game, balance is key. Yeah, it's my first amateur fight on Combat FC. Yeah, I've quartered Combat FC before. They're a great promotion. The biggest thing is the lights are pretty intense at Combat FC, and I don't. If you've ever fought before, a lot of the regional shows they don't invest in the lights, right? So there isn't like the spotlight and like the smoke and like it's dark, but if you just be ready for that, because a lot of people get intimidated under those lights for the first time. you know, especially on the regional scene, especially for your first match. Just be ready to have it be. It's like a real show. It's definitely like a real show. So be ready for the lights. But other than that, all it is extra production, right? It's still a fight. You know, it's your first fight. We're talking to Kadu Lanes here. It's his first fight, Combat FC organization I've coached for before on Fight Pass. So if you guys want to check that out on Fight Pass, what's your grappling history? I think grappling in your first fight is always the way to go. I really do. I think grappling in your first fight it's hard to go wrong with that, man. If you look at the way like two kids would fight, if they're just on the schoolyard, people naturally just grab each other. You know, like two kids don't naturally know how to throw hands, but they'll figure out like a headlock, and they'll figure out. It's just when in stress, the human being tends to grab his opponent. So if grappling is your choice for your first fight, that's an excellent choice. You can't go wrong. Always trying to have the grappling advantage when it comes to your first fight in particular. But if you can through the whole career, then that would be even better. That would be even better. What did you guys think of Izzy versus Duplessis? What to do for cardio for MMA? There's kind of like two forms of cardio you have to work. There's like a base cardio, which is like your jogging pace. That's typically the pace that you strike at, right? So you can do jogging, and then sprints kind of have like a medium between grappling and the striking, right? Jogging is striking. Sprinting could be working for striking or grappling. And really, I think the best thing for grappling cardio is grappling, as well as if you can get really good at like Olympic style lifting with like the barbell, like snatches. Don't go crazy with the weight. You're going for more repetitions, kettlebell swings, that type of thing. But the biggest thing of all of these is you train with a heart rate monitor, right? If you train with a heart rate monitor, what you're going to do is you're going to get better at bringing your heart rate up slower, right? So let's say you have a max heart rate of 180. You're going to get better over time at slowly going to that versus quickly. And then over time, you're going to get better at recovering from that. So you're at 180, your heart's beating through your fucking chest. And then over time, you get better at going back down to like 100, right? And that represents that 1 minute you have in between, right? So you get it up, the heart rate monitor is telling you it's there, see how long it takes to recover. In the beginning, it'll take like 5 minutes. Over time, it'll take like 1 minute. That's what you're looking for. You can get your heart rate all the way to the top and then bring it back down. So a heart rate monitor brings actual data to how in shape you are. I think Izzy would have won. Let's see. I recommend interval training is good, but it's really all about getting that heart rate up, right? So typically it's like 180 to 200 would be really high, but it's about getting that heart rate up and then seeing how long it takes to recover from that. So that is interval training. You're right. It is interval training. So I definitely recommend that, but you need a heart rate monitor. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, you are basing it on how you feel versus like data. You know what I'm saying? The heart rate monitor gives you data. I think Izzy could have won the fight. I thought Izzy was doing really good. Against Duplessis. I thought that in the fourth round and the third round, Izzy's striking was some of the best I had seen it in a while. Ooh, Islam versus Arman. Who we got here? Let me think. I think I got to go Islam. I think Islam we're going to be seeing stick around for a while. I think Islam is – I think the plan of Abdulhamab was to have Khabib go first, but Islam to stick around longer. Right. So that way it kind of balanced out the two, right? Khabib got all the credit of being the first one. Khabib really opened up the door for the whole Dagestani wave. Now you had Russian champions before, back in like UFC, one of the first 10. Oleg Tektarov was from Russia and he won the whole UFC championship. But the Dagestani wave kind of started with Khabib, right? Dagestan is part of Russia, but it's also kind of its own thing, right? And in that part of Russia, that's where you see all these fighters come from. Now, Abdulhamab being like the Khabib's father and the head of like the head coach of the region. Yeah, exactly. There was like there was like a plan laid out for Islam to be around for a while by these guys, and I have no reason to think that that plan isn't coming true because it's like it's 29-0 Khabib. Islam wins the title. Islam beats Volk twice. That was huge. That was huge. I think there was a huge hiccup when he did the Volk fight and Volk looked like he won. But I think in the end, I think this whole plan that's been laid out by this guy from the beginning. I also have off-season wrestling. Oh, cool. Okay. Kadu Lanes, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? If you're still here. It's the off-season wrestling tournaments. Is if you're doing off-season wrestling tournaments, I'm just really curious if you're doing it for high school or if you found wrestling that is not available for high school, right? So for older people, this is kind of the strength and the weakness of wrestling. It's in the school system, right? You can do it from the beginning all the way up. If you're really good, you can do it through college. But for opportunities between there are not much. Do you think Islam's one loss has some effects in his popularity he could have, and he could be more famous? That's a really good question. There is something with Khabib and his early fights. You know, he's 29-0. Not to take anything away from him. You do kind of wonder about his early fights. There is a legitimacy that comes with having a loss, right? It proves that, you know, maybe you got in there with somebody tough. You know, you're human. You got clipped. Whatever. I do believe Khabib has a legit 29-0 record, but maybe some of those early fights, I don't know. There's something about in MMA, everybody loses. And that is kind of what keeps the sport good, right? In boxing, that undefeated record is so important, right? Like it's almost like as soon as you lose, it's like, fuck, he lost. We can't even use him anymore. Boxing is just, no, you need that O. The one thing I give Dana White credit for is he just loves great fights. Even if you lose the fight, then you will be rewarded if you had a good performance. If you put on a good fight in the UFC, even if you lost, you get taken care of at least for the next fight. Let's see. Yeah, definitely more casuals will tune into an undefeated fighter. Absolutely. Islam choked Poirier out, but he had a harder fight than Khabib did. 100%. 100%. He definitely had a harder fight than Khabib did. Right. But, you know, I would hope so. I would hope Dustin Poirier learned from what he had with Khabib. I think the thing is with these Dagestani guys, I think it's surprising how good they are. And you can't really know what it feels like till they get a hold of you. Connor and Khabib fought. And thanks, dude. Thank you, Chica Diracirio. That's good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. But when Connor and Khabib fought, I remember Joe Rogan distinctly saying, I think Connor is just surprised by the grappling, right? There's something about these Dagestani boys that when they grab you, you can't replicate them in the training room. You would need to have one in order to see what it feels like. So Dustin fought Khabib the first time, and I would hope that just from feeling it, he was able to make something of it, and then that's why he did better against Poirier did better against Islam than he did against Khabib. I'm guessing. This was a high school, but between seasons, I've been training MMA and BJ. Yeah, I think BJJ competitions are really good to test how you are as a competitor, right? Like BJJ competitions, I think everyone should at least compete in one BJJ competition before they step in the ring. It's the ring or the cage. Really, the cage is what I'm talking about. It tests how you are as a competitor. Throughout my years, I've seen people that are great at I've seen people that are great in the gym, but not the best competitors. And I've seen people that just come alive when the lights turn on. Right. Like I've seen people just step out there and they just go. And that's not a good thing to figure out inside of the cage. Right. A BJJ competition kind of lets you know how you're feeling as a competitor. I would usually recommend, if you were to do it sport by sport. Ooh, will Chimaev out wrestle Whitaker? That's the question, isn't it? That's the question, isn't it? Now, I do wonder. The thing I would say about Khabib, In this Dagestani wrestling style, I don't necessarily know if it scales up a weight class, right? This on top of you, heavy smashing you thing. I don't know if it scales up. Like, can it? Like, I remember BJ Penn kind of had a style in which he could catch Matt Hughes, and it would scale up a weight class because it was kind of tricky. The thing about this smashing style is it's not that unpredictable. It really depends on whether or not you can just overwhelm the person with it. So I think if Hamzat can overwhelm Whitaker with the wrestling like he's been doing, like he picks the person up and he brings him across the octagon and he throws him down and he talks to Dana White. If he can do that, then oh man, a fight with him and Bo Nickel. Aren't you guys excited to see Russian versus American wrestling? Isn't that just the best? Like some Russia versus USA, Bo Nickel versus Hamzat Chimaev. I also had an amateur boxing. Really, shot to the body. What weight class? What weight class was that at? I'm curious. Shots to the body. That's good, man. Yeah, if you were to go progression, I would go like a BJJ competition, then a boxing match, then Muay Thai or kickboxing, and then finally MMA. I think it's really important to know, though, that like, you don't want to get any bad habits from any of these arts. These are just kind of testing how you are as a competitor. And the idea is you put more and more brain damage on the line each time, right? So with the jiu-jitsu tournament, there's not a lot of brain damage on the line. Boxing, there's more. Muay Thai, there's more. And MMA, there's probably the most of the ground and pound. 150, good for you. Good for you. That's a good weight. If you can land a body shot at 150, then that's killer. That's killer. What do you think about freestyle versus Greco in MMA context? I think Greco doesn't really get the credit it deserves. It's basically no-gi judo. Not completely, but kind of, right? Like, it's no shooting for the legs, so you can't drop to the knee in order to get in on the legs. It's all upper body throws. And I think Greco-Roman is like the most dangerous fucking sport I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you guys have watched Greco-Roman, but it is like the most dangerous thing I've ever seen. If you want to see a good Greco guy in MMA, Randy Couture is kind of like your archetypal Greco-Roman grinder. Chimaev beat Usman, who has strong American wrestling. Not like Bo Nickel, though. I think that Kamaru Usman is like a D3 wrestler, D3 state champion or whatever. But thanks, man. I want your breakdowns for my. Oh, dude, nice. Good gym. Great for Muay Thai. Yeah, D2. Okay. He was D2, and Bo Nickel is a 3-time NCAA champion wrestler. And if you win the Division I NCAA championships as in American folk style wrestling, you are an animal. You are an absolute animal if you win the NCAAs. It is different. And we're finding that out now. Oh, Lewis, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, man. It's not a lot of not a lot of like technique freaks like us, right? Like sometimes when I really make the really technical videos, it's great to have like a more smaller audience of people that really appreciate it. So I appreciate the compliments. MMA wrestling is different, 100%. And in the old days, we just kind of figured the best wrestler was the best fighter. We didn't really realize the differences that much. The sport was not refined so much. I do think now that MMA has caught up to just pure wrestling. Bo Nickel did not look great in the last fight. Don't get me wrong. He won every second of the match, but it just looked like he couldn't do damage. He couldn't finish a choke. He needs some work on that. And it just looked like he wasn't really in position to hit. But I have no doubt Bo Nickel's personality is such that he's now studying to come back better than ever. Hamzat will have a weight advantage over Benz. Does he really? How big is Hamzat when he's cutting? Is he just massive? Is he like at like 210 or something? Some of the best wrestlers and anti-wrestlers. Yeah, it is a lot easier to learn wrestling defense than it is to learn wrestling offense, right? It's a lot easier to learn a sprawl than it is to learn a double leg. one thing you can do to nullify wrestling and MMA is you can use the cage. If you know how to use the cage really well for wrestling defense, it's not something that's found in wrestling, like pure American wrestling or pure, freestyle, folk style, whatever. So it's a lot easier to learn wrestling defense than offense. The other thing that's really good about striking as a base is that you don't have to take anything away from the striking as a base. Now, BJJ, wrestling, judo, these are great sports. They are going to leave you with a couple bad habits, right? So things like I've seen a lot of guys, they have this beautiful mount position, and then they start, instead of going to blast them, they go to the arm bar, they fall off the top. They jump guillotine, they slide off the top. So there is a difference. But the thing about striking is you don't have to take any bad habits away. You can just kind of put things onto it. So you can add the wrestling defense. You can add the wrestling later. This is a big thing. Around your best weapon. If I have a straight right, I cannot just spam. Okay, the idea of having a best weapon, like a signature move, this is so cool in martial arts. You don't choose it, it chooses you. At some point after you have trained enough, right? Your signature move will be revealed to you. It'll be this move that you just like can't miss. I have a couple in jiu-jitsu, I have a couple in striking, but as you train, as you keep refining your game, it will naturally come to you, this signature move, and then you will naturally start to build a game around that. Has this happened to you yet? Do you have you say you're straight right? Are you using that as an example, or are you saying that this has really become like your signature? Izzy said he made a mistake giving up his neck versus DDP, wondering what was his mistake. Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to see a clip of the fight. I'd have to rewatch a clip of the fight. My memory isn't that good. If I had to guess, though, the mistake happened before his neck came up, right? I do believe that Izzy was kind of backing up, really kind of leaning, and then Duplessis chased him down. Like he was kind of doing this, and Duplessis chased him down, and that knocked him over. And as Izzy was falling, I'm guessing that's when Duplessis went in for the choke, right? As someone's falling, they're off balance. And if you're on balance, as they're going down, you can kind of slink around with that arm. Can Aspinall beat Jones? Yeah, and I think let's talk about Aspinall versus Jones. I don't think it's fair that a guy who has had, with a much fresher body. How old is Tom Aspinall? Let me look up how old Tom Aspinall is. Tom Aspinall he's 31, and he hasn't had nearly as many fights as Jones. Now, Jones has been fighting the highest level of competition for about 15 years. That is 15 years of the highest level of competition wearing on your body, wearing on the brain, wearing on the joints, So to make this fight fair between Aspinall and Jones, I feel like Aspinall has to take a few more fights. He just does not have the wear and tear that John Jones has on his body. If John Jones had less wear and tear on his body, I do believe he'd beat Aspinall fairly convincingly. But because, John Jones has a torn pec, his toe's been broken a couple times. He's been, dude, these fights take years off your life. And Tom just has not had as many as Jones. Have you taken a good look? Have you taken a look at the roll to the knee from having your back taken? Yeah, I lost to that in a match one time, actually. When leg locks were kind of first coming out, I was going against a real big leg locker. And from the turtle, he rolled and got me in a knee bar. We usually tempted to throw out fastest best. Okay, in a fight or sparring, we are usually tempted to throw out fastest, best, most accurate strike with setup over and over as we are confident landing. How can we prevent falling into this pattern while under pressure? There needs to be a part of sparring that's just fun sparring, right? So when you are training for a competition, if you're really putting in the work, your mind is really stressed out. It's inevitable. And what's kind of tough about this is the thing that was usually the thing that was de-stressing you. You know, you're a little crazy if you're doing this, and you found martial arts, and that kind of helped you deal with your demons and shit. Once that's the thing that's stressing you out and creating the demons, it's hard mentally. So it's very good. You know, you have your hard sparring or whatever, but you also have very playful sparring where you can try like kung fu moves if you felt like it, right? You can do the fancy spinning kick. You can do the karate chop or whatever. You have fun sparring that I typically say no touch, right? Just, you know, just moving around. I think once I did a lot of training with Ido Portal. If you guys remember Conor McGregor's movement coach, he was the touch butt guy with the ponytail. What that was the guy I started this culture kind of the no touch sparring. And if you look at when I think McGregor was the best, he was doing a lot of this no touch like flow sparring. Check out the open workout of McGregor in the early days, like when he was going to fight Mendez or something, right? He just was doing a lot of that flow sparring, and I think that gives you like a mental break. Well, Aspinall not only is the interim champion, I would say that for Jones as the heavyweight champ, I say Aspinall is probably the heavy. You could just call him the unified right now. I would say that if Jones ever wanted to take the fight, he should just be able to walk in and take it, right? Like, so I think Jones should maybe retire for a year or two, let Aspinall have some fights, right? Get some wear and tear on his body, but the door should always be open for Jones to come in. I do think without Jones in the picture, Aspinall will be the champ for a good while. We might have a heavyweight champion here that has a chance at beating Stipe's record at most title defenses. How to deal with nerves for the match? This is an excellent question. I'm going to answer the how to deal with nerves question. Then I'm going to get to you next, Lewis. So how to deal with nerves? I think one of the biggest things you could do is recognize that you are going to feel the nerves the whole time. The night before, you're going to be thinking of ways to try and get out of this. You're going to be sitting up at night, lying in your bed, eyes at the ceiling, wondering, how do I get out of this? I got to go tomorrow. I got to take my shirt off. I got to fight in front of all these people, and I'm scared to fucking hell. All the way through the locker room, your coach is going to be, taping your hands. You're going to be nervous. You're going to walk in there. The walkout song is when things start to feel good, right? You're starting to feel good as you walk out there. You get in there. You know, you're pacing back and forth. You're looking at the guy. It's all weird. It's all surreal until you touch gloves and you start fighting, and then it's just like it was in the gym. If you've really done the preparation right, once you touch gloves and you start going, it will feel like it did in the gym. It's just a different environment. Just a different environment. Okay, let me see here. How do we deal with nerves? What other predictable reactions amateurs have in their first fight, like the one? Okay, yeah. The biggest thing people are going to do in their first fight is they're probably going to throw a lead low kick, right? It probably won't be with the rear leg. It'll probably be a tap with the lead leg, like a shuffle low roundhouse kick. That is an excellent time to ding them with a straight right. Leg kicks are great. I love leg kicks, but they were really at their best at a time when a lot of people weren't super educated on low kicks in the States, right? So there, I'm sure you guys may have seen Lawrence Kenshin stuff at this point. He has a great video talking about a karate guy. What was his name? His brother coaches Anthony Pettis. It might come back to me, but getting demolished by a Thai fighter. And we didn't know about the low kicks. Now we do. Now that we know them, I tell you, one punch to the head is worth like 5 or 6 low kicks. Let's see here. How to deal with nerves. Or if you hit them in the face, they start bum rushing you after your combo is over. Okay, so are you like, so if you throw the low kick and then so they throw the low kick, I fire my combo, right? The end of my combo, guy starts rushing at me. The biggest thing is you don't necessarily have to move straight back, right? You don't have to move straight back. You could move side to side if you want to keep it on the feet. But if you're aware of the fact that at the end of your combo, he's going to rush in, excellent time to shoot for a double, right? This is a great time. You draw him into what he thinks is going to be a striking exchange. And then right when he thinks he's going to attack with the striking, that's when you shoot in for the double. Off topic, but any recommendation on where to study Greco-Roman techniques? The thing with wrestling, so the thing that judo has better than any martial art is it has fantastic documentation. It has fantastic reference material that you can look at. The thing about wrestling is it's fantastic, but it's so hard to find good documentation, right? Everyone has different moves for everything, right? Some people call it the Western hook. Some people call it the inside hook. In judo, all of the moves are much more codized, right? Like much more standardized. They all agree on the terms for things. So if you're looking for Greco techniques, you actually have to take a deep dive into the internet. It's not easy. My opponent's last fight was 7 years ago. He's 2-1. He's 30. That's what I'm most nervous about. 7 years to improve. Yeah. No, you listen, man. It's good you're nervous. It's good you're nervous. If you weren't nervous, that would be weird. Like if you weren't nervous, that would be very odd. But I think the biggest thing is you also have to take designated times where you're not going to think about it, right? This is very important. You cannot think about your fight all day, every day. You will go a little cuckoo, right? So it could be once a day for 20, 30 minutes. Take some time and say, I'm not going to think about the fight for this time. I have like an hour. I am training myself not to think about the fight. It's very important. Boxing is the best base for MMA striking. I disagree in that I think those kicks you kind of have to learn young. If you really, really want to be a good striker, it's hard to learn like Stephen Thompson level kicks later in life. That is definitely one thing I've noticed as a coach is it takes a lot of time where a kid can learn it. Kid can learn it kind of fast. I'm a sucker for throwing karate style straight, long, hard punches when I see a naked leg kick. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what works really well, too, is if they throw a right, like a rear kick, a rear low kick, a left hook works pretty well, right? Because a lot of times they drop it like this, and then this can be open. One of Khabib's cousins did that to somebody. He just sent him into the freaking shadow realm. As the knee is almost in check position. Yeah, if you can catch him before that leg is even extended, then you've really got something here. Best striker to study in the UFC right now. Currently in the UFC, you have Stephen Thompson, who I am just giddy about, right? He's one of my more. It's like a beautiful style. It really is. I think Sean O'Malley is definitely up there. Probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, but some of the stuff he's doing, man, it's Matrix-esque. I haven't quite seen Matrix-esque since Anderson. And then Izzy's good. I mean, how could you? Izzy's a very good one. Pereira's a very good one. And I even think Sean Strickland's boxing is really interesting and worth studying. This style. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Sanguine, nice to meet you. What about the best takedown for long, skinny, kind of weak in grappling guys to try to get good at? You're tall, I'm guessing. Are you tall? Because if you're tall, I would say if you could snap the guy's head down, right? If you pull right here and you snap the guy's head down and you can get a front headlock, right? If you're really tall and you can pull front headlock, and you can keep him there and you can just snap him down from there, that is a really, really good takedown. Now, very important to know, guys, there is a difference between a front headlock and a guillotine choke, right? A guillotine is a choke. You often see people fall onto their back to try to finish a guillotine choke. A front headlock is a control position, right? Imagine a standing guillotine. I have his head's in here somewhere, right? And I've got my weight over the top of him. you could just hold that. That is an excellent position. You have him like in a shitty deadlift. If he doesn't have hands on the mat, then you can knee him in the head while he's doing that, right? So the front headlock, if you're a taller guy, it's easy to snap that head down and go front headlock. You got a lot of leverage there. The thing you have to watch out for is that you got to watch out for double underhooks. Tall guys got to watch out for shorter guys throwing in the double underhooks on them. 5'11", which is tall in my country. Yeah, so you're pretty tall. What country you're coming in from? Judo would be good too, actually. Good suggestion. Uchimata, right? That's in wrestling, they call it a whizzer kick. Is, you've got the whizzer and then you kick one leg in between their legs. And it's kind of like a leg sweep and a hip throw at the same time. Taller guys do really well with Uchimata. And in the Cade Rotolo match, one of Cade Rotolo's matches, my God, did he hit a lot of Uchimatas. Can O'Malley deal with Merab? Dude, Merab, if you had to make a Merab, a fighter that could beat Sean O'Malley in a lab, Merab would be kind of close. I mean, I saw him absolutely fold Henry Cejudo in half. I didn't know you could do that to an Olympian. I think Sean O'Malley, if Sean O'Malley can put away Merab convincingly, huge. I do study Muay Thai fighters as well. I think Saenchai would be a really good breakdown for me, right? It's a very challenging one. There's a lot of things that it would take me like 2 months, I think. There's a lot of things that go into what Saenchai does that are incredible. Buakaw is amazing. He's definitely not as complicated as a breakdown as Saenchai is. Peter Yan, yeah. What is Peter Yan up to now? What was Peter Yan's last fight? If Peter Yan comes back on the scene, we may have to bring him in. Let's see. I am from Paraguay. Can I ask you if someone with the same build but not the same power of Pereira pulling his kick? Yeah, I think you can. It's not going to be exactly the same, right? It won't be exactly like Pereira, but you can base your style on him. Yeah, you just have to kind of adjust it over time, but that comes with experience. Thoughts on dropping the knees for a takedown or just hinging at the hips for MMA? I think you could use both. I really do. I've had some situations where it was sometimes dropping to the knee really quick. Like if you watch Khabib hit his low single, he'll drop to his knees and shoot in from like a block away, right? If you can get to your knees quick, now the opponent can't hit you in the head technically with a kick or a knee, and you can get in his legs quick. I do think hinging at the hips is a more efficient way of doing it, right? Especially, I think George St. Pierre used a lot of hinging at the hips to get the takedown. So definitely a case for both. Learn both because I think they're both the best move in the sport. I think Pereira's style without his power is risky. Oh man, Kate for 168. Is it risky? The thing is, it's also very good kickboxing, right? He's very powerful, but you can't take away from the fact that he just has really good kickboxing technique. Young guy, dude, I think I tried to make a breakdown of that fight, but I got copyrighted. I get copyrighted a lot. He did, and I think Merab broke the takedown attempt record in that fight. It was something like 32. Right, it's something ridiculous, and like he wasn't even. It wasn't like the failed takedown was hurting him. It was like somehow he was making that failed takedown. Peter had to work harder than him. Let's see here. Then beat Yadong, Song Yadong. Oh. Pereira usually is confident that he will come out victorious in many simultaneous exchanges, which are kind of dangerous to attempt. And yeah, it's true. But I don't want you guys. It's like it's in jiu-jitsu, right? If you're really good and then someone kind of gives you the, oh, you're so strong thing, right? It's like, hey, like, no, I'm just good at jiu-jitsu. It's not necessarily strength. Don't put the power thing as like what makes Pereira good necessarily. A lot of why he's powerful is because his technique is elite, right? I've seen guys that are really strong, deadlift 500 pounds or something, but their technique isn't good, so they couldn't kick the bag like hard at all. So technique is definitely a big factor in power, and he's got elite technique. Oh, appreciate it, man. Thank you, bro. One of my favorite channels. Really appreciate it, man. That's really nice of you. Like the videos, guys. Yeah, thanks, man. No, it was 50. Haha. Haggerty. Haggerty. If you look on my site, if you look here, hold on, let me pull up my site. I did a site where I document just moves, right? I'll show you here. Yeah, throughout this site, I have just tons and tons and tons of Haggerty stuff. Let me find like an elbow. This is just documenting all the moves, right? So if we go to the archive, yeah, I've got him for, I call this a winging elbow. I've got him for like a spear elbow. That's an elbow that's coming at you like that. Here he is doing the 12-6. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Haggerty do a 12-6 elbow, but like he knocks someone into the fucking next dimension with the 12-6 elbow. I think Haggerty has some like of the most textbook beautiful Muay Thai ever. And like he's all through this site for here. Yeah, he got him even here. Haggerty's the man. Let's see here. Damn, the greatest backhanded compliment right here. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. I'm sure Pereira gets that, and I'm sure he's like, "Fuck you guys." Can't wait for the Oh, I appreciate that, man. The grappling is going to be a lot of fun. The grappling, there's so many more grappling techniques than there are striking techniques. There's so many more. There's so many more grappling techniques than there are striking techniques. So I really got to think about how I'm going to plan. Dude, I'm really glad someone's using the site. I'm really, really glad someone's using the site. I made the decision to make it free. I used to have it was a lot more complicated before. It was like $10 a month, and it was like a whole thing. Dude, there's something about the best things on the internet are free. Now, I don't know if I'll always keep it free. I can't promise that, but for now, it's free. Enjoy it. I'm just glad people are using it because that was my master's capstone. Put so much work into that. Thank you for using it, dude. His teeps are insane, especially the one Haggerty uses that is kind of rare. Is he does a lead teep, and he's super effective with it. I mean, the lead teep just being so long. Right? You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Let me see if I got him on the lead teep here. Kicks. By the way, guys, I'll just explain this. There's two parts of the site, right? There's an arc, like for each of the sections, there's like kicks archive and kicks skill tree. This one is just the order I think that you should learn them in. Right? You could really learn them in any order you want, but this is the order I would learn them in. So if we go to like a push kick, I swap it between that and a teep kick for naming it. I think Haggerty is here. Yeah, I got Haggerty doing the lead teep on this one here. Yeah, this is great. He's best that I've seen in terms of that move. Side lead teep, foot place horizontally. Yeah. So is it so I haven't seen it. Is it a side kick, or is it like the Muay Thai side kick where the foot is kind of turned at 45 degrees versus like a Taekwondo side kick where versus where the leg is completely sideways, parallel to the ground? It's a Thai side kick. Okay. That's one kick I love it. I think the Thai side kick is great. It's like a middle ground between the teep kick and the side kick. But I personally am not good at it. I personally am not good at that style. Let's see here. 45, kind of, but still hits with the ball of the foot. Oh, okay. It's like hitting with the ball of the foot is a very skillful thing to do, right? I remember Connor didn't use them much, but he had like a roundhouse kick where he would hit with the ball of the foot. And it's like the snap kick or front kick, whatever you want to call it, where you just kind of dig the ball on the foot from underneath. I'll show you here. Let me see here. Like the one Anderson Silva did when he fought Vitor Belfort. Let me see. Yeah, this one. This was, I remember seeing this, and this was kind of like the first time I really saw someone strike with the ball of the foot. Right? You really want to pay attention, right? The toes are curled back. He's curling the toes back, and the ball of the foot is coming up underneath the chin. When you strike with a really small surface area like that, you can do a lot of damage. Hey, good night, man. Good talking to you. I'll be back again. I'm liking the live stream thing. How can an athletic, tall, lanky guy, long leg and arm reach, but not strong or fast, develop a dependable MMA style strategy that will give him longevity? Logically, does not depend on athleticism. Okay, few things to understand here. The first thing, control of all the factors in MMA. MMA is the craziest sport I've ever seen in my life. And sometimes I feel like God just flips a coin and picks a winner. I really do. The other side of that coin is you have to do one of two things. One, you have to really study the sport. And I think there's a big opportunity in studying MMA as a sport because it's still pretty open-ended. You know, like we've been talking about how MMA wrestling is not wrestling. It's different. So if you really dive into studying MMA as its own sport, that's a good way to get ahead. So many people are still trying to put different styles together. And there is a place for that, don't get me wrong. But we are now seeing MMA start to evolve as its own thing. The other thing is I definitely believe there is something to just general intelligence training, right? Like if you get smarter, like honestly, the better you do in school, the harder you work to just get smarter on a general level, this will improve your ability to fight. It's just like improving your general fitness, right? We have seen time and time again that the best fighters tend to be pretty smart. George St. Pierre is like the ultimate example of that, right? You need like a certain level of intelligence in order to process things and think moves ahead, like a champion can do. And prevents damage. Entertainment is not a factor. Yeah, so that would just be lay on top of them, right? Actually, one thing you could really do is get good at ground and pound. One of the things that makes MMA different than jiu-jitsu and any other martial art is the ground and pound. If you can take someone down and pound them out, it's the safest way to win, and you'll also be entertaining. If you want a good career in MMA, right? If you want to make a career out of it, there's two things you could do, right? You could go for an MMA career, and you could try to make it as a fighter for your living, or you could have a few fights just because it's good to have a few fights. If you want to make a career out of it, you do need to consider entertainment value. I don't like it, but ground and pound is your safest bet. Like getting real, like that's what makes Khabib exciting, right? Massive ground and pound. Good night, MMA fan. What are your thoughts on Wing Chun and MMA? It's really funny. I am a Bruce Lee nut, right? I love Bruce Lee and I love MMA. I love them both at the same time. And by the end of Bruce Lee's career, he wasn't even really using Wing Chun in his movies anymore. In fact, any time that he did use Wing Chun, it felt kind of forced. If you remember Bruce Lee's scene versus O'Hara in Enter the Dragon, no one starts with their arms crossed like this, right? That was something he did to kind of force the Wing Chun in there. Now, there are things that Wing Chun has discovered that I think are useful, such as being able to grab the wrist and then strike. So things like, I think it's Lap Sao, they call it in Wing Chun, right? But that's just grabbing the wrist. It kind of annoys me that if someone grabs the wrist, a whole bunch of people go, oh, Wing Chun. No, that he just grabbed the wrist and then he punched him. So I think that Wing Chun kind of takes credit for too much sometimes. It's cool though. I mean, it produced Bruce Lee. That was pretty cool. Has like some cool philosophy. Let's see here. Fun fact about the fighting style of athletes here. We are next to Brazil and Argentina, so everyone's good in Muay Thai, BJJ, and a lot of boxing. But no, really, no one has any, not even judo. Wrestling, I could believe that, but I thought judo was kind of everywhere. That's really interesting. Huh. Ground and pound style requires crazy cardio and control. Yeah, but there's also a technique to it, right? If you really take the time to learn the technique, right? Like there are things like, for one, in jujitsu and wrestling, you tend to stay very low on your opponent, like chest on him. With ground and pound, you need to learn how to be above him and use the punches themselves as a form of control. Yeah, he does do that a lot, and you're starting to see it a lot in the little glove Muay Thai, right? In the little glove Muay Thai, you're starting to see those guys grab wrists. It's really fun. When I go for a double leg hinging at the hips, sometimes I get sprawled on forcing me to move my arms up for a body lock. Should I focus on upper body takedowns or push them to? I would go to the body lock and then use that to push them to the cage. One thing about when you shoot in the cage is if you don't get the takedown, use it to back them up to the fence. If that means that you stay down and you kind of run them down like a wrestler style, whatever. Sometimes I shoot low just to go up for the body lock. And then you can push them against the cage. Should I take advantage of that and try to learn wrestling and judo with a buddy at home and start beating guys in amateur? Yeah. Okay, so that's what I did, right? You see that over there? That was from a Naga expert division. When I was growing up in Boston, this was 97, right? There was no jujitsu around. There was no really anything around. So you kind of go around and you get what you can and you get DVDs and you do whatever. I actually think there's a lot of merit in learning that way. I would highly, highly recommend learning that way. How often should you drill techniques? That's a really good question. It depends on if you're in camp or not, right? If you are in camp and you have an assigned opponent and your coach or whoever has said, okay, these are the techniques that we need to beat this person, right? We know we're going to use this, we're going to use that, we're going to be ready for this, we're going to be ready for that. It's almost like you can't drill those enough, right? It's really like you almost can't drill those enough. If it's just general training, the old expression is you train till you can't get it wrong. So it's not about time. It's not about reps. It's about, can you do it perfectly every single time you step up to the plate to do it? When you can do that, you've probably drilled enough. Oh, how to cut weight. This is a big one. Okay, this is a big one. The biggest thing is one, you got to know you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer. The science of weight cutting is just about making it suffer less. New Mexico, what's up, man? Good to see you. Afro Ninja 505. I really appreciate it. We're talking about how to cut weight right now. So, yeah, like I said, the first thing is you're going to suffer when you cut weight, but that's part of it, right? Nothing wrong with that. That kind of makes you tougher. That kind of puts the hunger in you. Literal hunger makes you hungry to win in the cage. And the biggest thing is you've got to track your calories. Let's say you've got 12 weeks to cut the weight. The biggest thing is you've got to track your calories and you got to weigh in every day. You cannot go long periods of time without weighing in. You cannot hope that you've lost this weight. You need data saying that you've lost the weight. Now, if you've got 12 weeks, what you need to do is find the right calorie intake that lets that scale go down at a consistent rate every time that you step on it. And the real weight cutting happens like the week of the fight. There are many methods of doing this, one of which is water loading, which is where you essentially drink big amounts of water, like a gallon or 2 gallons, for 3 days or so. And then you stop drinking the water, and your body's used to peeing out a lot. and then it keeps peeing out even though there's no water in you, and that kind of just flushes out. I don't know if you guys know this, but pee weighs more than water, right? The extra minerals and stuff in it actually make it weigh more. So it's good to just hyper go and then pee it out. You'll actually lose more weight than the water you put in by peeing it out. Thoughts on dirty boxing? Dirty legal boxing. Yeah, I like that. John shoulder crank, big brother guard. I poke force field. Yeah, I mean, I think they're all great. One thing I think that could be really big is stepping on people's feet. I've got some fighters now I'm training to step on people's feet. So, like, you go to throw that cross against the guy that's always backing up. You step on his foot, he's not backing up. The other thing is, too, I really believe in hits with this part of the hand, like from all angles. I think that's super effective. And the thing is this is illegal in boxing, right? You can't hit with that in boxing. So when you swing like this, it's kind of like you're swinging a sword, right? So you can kind of use your arm and swing. I've even seen some guys like do this with like two hands together. I definitely think there's a lot of room for hand techniques in MMA that are illegal in boxing. This being one of them, like this being one of them, you're seeing a lot. I definitely think that the rules in boxing with the gloves and the limit to just the knuckles is great. It's a really great way of fighting. I love boxing. I train it all the time. There's videos of me training it on my Instagram somewhere. But I think I do think that there's more to hand techniques than just boxing. Let's see here. What made you get into MMA? I don't feel like I had a choice. I feel like I was born to love MMA. I started Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, and wrestling when I was like 4. It was great. I loved it. The thing that really made me a lifer was I saw Enter the Dragon, though. I saw Enter the Dragon, and it was when Bruce Lee did that quick back fist versus O'Hara. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. I want to be like that, And then I got really into striking till like 6th or 7th grade. But I was doing jiu-jitsu the whole time before I saw UFC 1. So I saw UFC 1 in like 6th grade. And then I was like, oh my fucking God, jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is like the sickest thing ever. Did that, got my brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I got, I'm getting my black belt, I believe, at the end of this year. But I love it. I love jiu-jitsu. And I do think my real love is MMA, though. I think I really do love the mixing of all the arts. And that kind of comes from my love of Bruce Lee a little bit. Yeah, I love when, yeah, Dustin did that against Hooker for sure. Dude, Dustin versus Hooker was one of the first times I saw like this hammer fist from the clinch. That was a crazy fight. And I have a lot of respect for Poirier. I had the same hip surgery he had, right? I've had it on both sides of my hip. That is not an easy surgery to come back from. And then to have a fight like that coming back, all the respect to Dustin Poirier. He plays down how much of a problem that hip probably was. Poirier pistol whipping Hooker while having a collar tie with the other hand. Yeah, man, that was sick. That was sick. Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. I really wanted Poirier to beat Islam. I really did. It's not that I dislike Islam. It's just, I've been a coach in this for so long. It's hard to see someone put in that much work and the dream doesn't fully happen. Ever since I remember watching him, he had a documentary on, I forget if it was Netflix or Amazon, but there was a documentary on Dustin Poirier. And it was when he was fighting on the regional scene in Louisiana. And it showed him coming up, I believe, to his first fight in the UFC. And I remember seeing at the time, he was just a regional kid that made it. And look how far he's come. Fight Phil, that was it. That was it. Fight Phil, that was that exactly right. Good man. Thank you for the compliment too, by the way, Lewis. I really appreciate that. But to see how far he's come, I would have absolutely fucking lost my mind if that kid became the UFC champion. To all of you guys watching this right now that are interested in fighting, know that it could happen from any gym in the world.
Conor McGregor was just some guy in Ireland at some gym in Ireland. And with hard work and study and dedication and a little bit of personality, you can make it happen from any gym in the world. You can believe in your circumstances and it'll happen. Dracus du Plessis, probably just some gym in South Africa, managed to produce a world champion. So anyone that's watching this, it can happen from any gym from anywhere. Yes, there are benefits to going out and training with like different gyms and maybe trying out a super team or whatever. But you can really do it from anywhere if you believe in yourself and you get the right people around you. Getting the right people around you for this sport is really, really difficult. You need to be on guard at all times. It's a new sport still. It's only like 30 years old. And it's not as sketchy as boxing yet, but you do have to watch yourself. You really do have to watch yourself. Is anyone here thinking about becoming a professional fighter? I know Lewis he has his first amateur. Is anyone else here looking to become some kind of fighter or compete? Anything? If we have no knees, no elbows, headgear, and MMA amateur rule set, how can we go about making the most of the limitations set on the striking? I do think that you need to remember that the knee to the body is still really good. You can still use the knee to the body, and I see a lot of amateur fights use the knee to the body. When it comes to the striking outside the elbows and the knee to the head, I really think that probably Stephen Thompson is a good guy to study. There is a whole lineage of full contact kickboxers, right? Guys like Superfoot Bill Wallace, right? Superfoot Bill Wallace, if you watch his videos, they just use punches and kicks, and they're fantastic with them. They wear like the little booties on the feet, like the little, it's like a glove for your foot, and they are absolutely fantastic at it. That is a whole. Benny the Jet is another one. Joe Louis was another one. Not Joe Louis the boxer, but Joe Louis the kickboxer, guy trained with Bruce Lee. There's a whole sport you could watch for influence. Full contact kickboxing. If you're really flexible, you got to check out Bill Superfoot Wallace. Let me see here. Thoughts on close range fighting for opponents with long reach? When they have long reach, I think a good thing you could do is grab their wrist and throw it. People don't really recognize, in this isn't Muay Thai, this isn't boxing. If they're reaching out like this and you're a shorter guy, quickly reach up, grab his wrist, throw it like an arm drag across the body, and then try to get in from there. Investing on hard teeps to the gut, on the gut maybe, and leg kicks. I definitely think the best style for MMA is, I would just call it leg kick boxing. I would just call it small glove leg kick boxing with the occasional body or head kick. Now, I do think that a massive shot to the body with a kick is beautiful. Beautiful. But if you had to polish one thing first, kind of call it leg kick boxing. Also, I don't know if you know this, the side kick to the knee is legal in amateurs in Massachusetts. That's surprising, but you could still do those ways that John Jones stomps on people's legs. You can do that in the amateurs in here. Hell yeah, man. My first amateur, November 23rd. I want to get to the UFC. Where are you fighting, big time Edgar? Tell us about the fight. Dying to know. So once you get your leg kick boxing down, then you can kind of develop a game built off of leg kick boxing. Facts. Champions can come from anywhere. Look at DJ. Nobody ever talks about the gym he comes from. Training to fight MMA currently. Can't leave. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it can come from anywhere. It can come from anywhere. I think that's a big thing. That was what was so amazing about Conor McGregor, right? He believed in his surroundings, and he came out of. Look what he did just out of some gym in Ireland. No wrestling there. No wrestling there, man. Bro, here if you sidekick to the knee, the coach of your opponent and the rest of the gym will wait for you outside the event. Good. Round 2. Round 2. I will still do it though, but they will complain a lot as it leads to a serious injury. Now, whether or not you have moral hesitance about using it is one thing. They are legal. That's all I'm saying, right? Like no one is going to disqualify you. You know what? Double check that. Maybe it's changed since I looked about that rule, but I do remember it being a thing. And theoretically, a sidekick to their lead leg is your longest weapon versus the closest target. And it's a vulnerable target, and it's an easy target to damage. The length of that sidekick versus how close that knee is to you, it makes it a real devastating weapon. Yeah, leg kick boxing. I really feel like that's how I would describe the style of MMA. You have some elbows, you have other things. Don't get me wrong. I've made a whole website of all the other things there is. But most amateur fights kind of come down to leg kickboxing. How to block the side kick to the knee? A check will work and it won't even hurt your knee. You know what I mean? You can check if you just bring your leg up. It's when the leg is planted and your weight's on it that it can really rip your knee apart. My opponent is trying to KO me. I will most def jab, post with my left arm on their head and hard side kick to the so the problem with the round kick to the leg is that it's not going to stop them from charging at you most of the time, right? It's taking this big wide swing, so it's not going to stop them from rushing you. A side kick to the knee, if you hit them while they're rushing in, they'll stop, right? You hit them to the knee. A teep too. If you hit them to that knee as they're rushing in with a straight kick, it'll make them buckle. It'll stop them from coming in. So there's big advantages to these kicks. You know, you don't necessarily have to crush his knee either. Just touching it will stop him. Let's see here. Round 2, yeah. For real though, I never got the side kick to the knee argument. To me, it's the same as a knee bar. Yeah, I feel the same way. I definitely feel the same way. I think an elbow to the head is worse. Actually, I think the meanest thing, the reason I don't do a lot of striking in MMA competition anymore is because the head damage thing is scary. There are really a lot of evidence now about the damage that can happen to the head. So I don't have much. I have qualms about hitting someone in the head. Like, you know, I'm 230. If I really blast them when I'm on top, I do have some kind of moral issue about that. But a side kick to the knee, I have less about. I only use round kicks when let me see, I'm kind of losing the bottom. When get elbow side or a dominant angle. Let me see, round kicks. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I think there is this belief that you can't throw naked kicks. I really think that people are like, oh, you have to set up the kicks with the punches. If you watch TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt, I forget which one, maybe the second one. When TJ kept trying to set up his kicks with the punches, he goes back to the corner and Dwayne Ludwig tells him, just throw kicks. Just throw a naked kick. John Jones throws tons and tons and tons and tons of naked kicks. Whether or not you can throw naked kicks kind of depends on how good your wrestling is. If you have really, really good takedown defense and you're not worried about you're getting taken down from a caught kick, because know this, catching a low kick is the highest percentage takedown in the sport. I just found your channel through the GSP video. Hey, what's up, man? We got Australia in the house. Thanks for coming in, big time, Edgar. Did you tell us more about your fight? I want to. Yeah, I would love to hear more about your amateur fight. How can we help you out? How can we help you win? Yeah, Afro Ninja, exactly. Right, exactly. I think the heel hook. Well, it's really interesting. The heel hook isn't even it's not even a top 10 submission in UFC. Let's see here. Your choice for favorite walkout song. Ready Couture Stranglehold was one of my favorites. That was pretty cool. I also thought Conor McGregor had a cool walkout song. The Foggy Dew combined with Notorious B.I.G. Where do you study takedown defense? you got to kind of study MMA, right? If you got to study how they use that cage to not go down a lot of the times, right? How they use the striking and whatnot. The thing is, there's a lot of things that go into wrestling, defense, and MMA you won't find in a grappling sport. Like even like if watch Volkanovski versus Islam 1, you can see it in my Volk breakdown where he uses the fake uppercut. That's the move you would throw against a wrestler shooting in if it's a punch. So if you can fake with that, but there's a lot. You have to study MMA directly to understand MMA takedown defense. Holloway versus Topuria breakdown. What do you guys? I'm not completely sold on Topuria. Sometimes I get to the party late. I do. I've seen fighters for a long time now, and sometimes it's hard to make me be like, "Wow, this is a special guy." I think Holloway, because Holloway is only 32, and in this sport, there kind of becomes a point where you have too much experience that your body's taking too much damage. Like you've been in so many wars, like it's actually a bad thing. I think that Holloway is at an age where the experience is only a benefit. Is it possible to become a world-class wrestler in 3 years? Interesting question. With a world-class coach, yes. I believe all things are possible with a lot of fucking hard work and patience. It would be difficult though. You would need someone like a world-class coach near you. You can get very good at wrestling in 3 years. Very, very good. But if we're talking like Olympic level, I don't know. Deontay Wilder became like a world class in boxing in just a couple of years, but that's not wrestling. Wrestling's a little different. Yeah, it is. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about Topuria yet. How many fights does Topuria have? Hold on a second. Let me just look this up. I just want to see how many fights he's had, how old he is, that kind of thing. Okay, so he's got 15 fights. How many fights of those were in the UFC? I don't know. I don't want to go away too long. But I'm just not sure about Topuria yet. If he beats Max Holloway, he has officially caught my attention. Right? If I see Topuria beat Holloway, then yeah, you caught my attention. We've got a breakdown coming. I have a feeling Holloway's going to win that one. But this is the craziest sport in the world. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. Topuria's base is grappling. Oh, what kind of wrestling? I think it's more of a wrestling base, right? Tell me more about his base. I will admit I'm a little ignorant on his background. You're on the money, Tommy. Takedown defenses fight. Yeah, 100%, dude. 100%. It's completely different. I mean, the threat of you hitting him as he's coming in, making him think you're going to do that is such a factor here. As well as the cage, as well as the strikes. I mean, one of the easiest, let's say he's got a grip around your waist. One of the easiest ways is just bop, 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 hit him in the temple a few times. You'll see a lot of people get knockouts with elbows, not 12-6, but it kind of comes from the side. I think it will go more or less like Holloway versus Rodriguez. Max will use strategies to make it an MMA fight and win rounds in a smarter and patient way, like he did versus Allen and Gaethje. You know, does Topuria have that dog in him? That's my question. I know Max for sure has that dog in him. What do you guys think? Does Topuria have that dog in him? Like I said, I saw the Volkanovski versus Topuria fight. That was a great performance. I'm a little skeptical in that I think that Volk was pretty affected by the Islam fight. I'm 17, 74 kilograms. Not sure I'm fighting yet, but I'm pretty well-rounded. I did break my collarbone a couple months ago. Okay, check this out. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's 2 screws in my shoulder. I've had my own shoulder injuries. I've come back, and I've been better than ever. You're going to do great, kid. You're going to do great. You can absolutely do it. The biggest thing is you're going to be nervous, right? The night before, the most common thing people think of is, how do I get out of this? How do I not have to do this? And then when you get in the cage to actually fight, it'll just feel like you're in the gym, right? It'll just feel like you're sparring in the gym. You're doing a hard sparring session in the gym. It'll feel normal. especially if you've really given it the time and effort that it deserves. He has Greco-Roman exposure. Oh, that changes things. King Spart, that changes things a little bit. Okay, that's interesting. That is definitely interesting. He's got like that Eastern European wrestling style. I'll be curious. What's the best wrestler Max Holloway has fought? Is it Volk? I mean, Volk has, it's not quote unquote wrestling, but take him down and beat him up. Who's the best that Holloway's fought? It might be Volk. But that changes things a little bit. I struggle a bit with shooting leg takedowns because my back is fucked too, but my jits is good. One thing I recommend then is there's this idea. I watch my Fedor video. Fedor, I think I call it striking to the clinch. You can shoot down low and go for like their legs, but you could also shoot up high and grab like a body lock or a clinch, like a collar tie. So learning how to close distance and grab without necessarily bending your back over. I've had 2 hip surgeries. I know I'm scared of my back too. Let's see. What are opinions on the new team Fighting Nerds? Carlos Paredes has got my eye after his recent fight. I need to see more. This is good. One of the reasons I do this breakdown is it keeps me in the loop of the game. And I haven't heard of the Fighting Nerds. I'd love to know more about him. Taporier's boxing is crisp. Yeah, I agree. I have seen a lot of people with crisp boxing, though. I need something from a technical perspective that's interesting. Something like Stephen Thompson, like an elite level karateka coming over. That's what really catches my eye. Something that's different than what I've seen before. Topuria feels like I've seen him before. I could be wrong. And if like I said, if he beats Holloway, we got a breakdown coming up. Back to when to KO his opponent at lightweight. I don't know how much that's good. It's good that he's tough. It's bad that he's been head kicked, right? If you've been head kicked, you might need to work on your defense a little bit. And every time you get head kicked, you can take less head kicks in the future. I definitely think the volume and the chin. I don't think Max Holloway is going to be chinny. That's the thing, right? I still think his chin's there. The question would have been, is he so old his chin isn't there anymore? Definitely. John Jones versus Tom Aspinall predictions. It's one of those things where if it happened right now, right? If it happened like tonight, I would say Tom Aspinall. But I don't think it's fair. I think John Jones has been through so many more fights. His body's just way more fucked up. I think Aspinall needs to fight a few more fights, get his body fucked up a little more, then it will be even. If we truly want to know who's better and not just who could win a fight right now, then Tom's got to fight a little bit. John Jones would retire, give Tom the belt, but there should be an open door so that John Jones can come back whenever he wants. Best wrestler he fought was Frankie Edgar, but he was a lot older. Oh, man, Frankie was the man back in the day. I started off hating Frankie Edgar because I was such a BJ Penn fan. And Frankie kind of ended the whole BJ Penn thing. But he really grew on me with the Gray Maynard fights. Really, really grew on me. Yeah, the number one most effective takedown in MMA, the highest percentage, the one that happens the most is a caught kick. So that alone, right, you don't find in wrestling. So that's good to know. Catching kicks. Leg kicks. Listen, a lot of people throw leg kicks. A lot of people's leg kicks are not that dangerous, right? A lot of people can't really whip the full whap into it. So when that adrenaline's pumping and you're ready to fight, if you can trade a leg kick for something, grabbing it, punching him, there's a lot of things that can happen for you. My build, long-legged, long arm, reach, and skinny helps in boxing and kickboxing. Yep. Phases in MMA, but sucks for grappling and BJJ. Okay. Should I just get better, or can I use my build in a better way? You can't avoid getting good at grappling and BJJ. The way you can get around this is if you kind of study MMA as its own thing, and you say, okay, BJJ and MMA isn't doing this. I'm gonna learn these things, but you can't get around it, man. There's plenty of tall guys that are great grapplers. Oh, this is a great question. Roundtree versus Pereira prediction. Dope Muay Thai versus dope kickboxing matchup. I don't. It was Khalil Roundtree versus some football player, some ex-football player. I have never in my life seen someone fuck up somebody more with like pure Muay Thai than I did that fight. I have never in my life seen somebody use just pure Muay Thai to fuck someone up in MMA like I did Khalil Roundtree versus whatever ex-football player he was fighting. What's your prediction of GSP and Robert Whitaker fought in their respective primes? Ooh, GSP. I got to go GSP. Why? GSP is really smart. And he had John Danaher in his corner. GSP still has the highest number of takedowns completed. I don't know how long he's been retired, but to never have wrestled in high school or college and to be taking down guys like Josh Koscheck and to have the highest number still is absurd. I mean, you know, Henry Cejudo's been in the UFC. Cormier, he's GSP, the non-wrestler, still got the best wrestling. Oh, this is really okay. Good question. I was competitive for a long time, and then I had really bad hip injuries, like really, really bad hip problems. They were going to replace them. Instead, I took a experimental procedure where they clean out the hip and add stem cells at the same time. While I was recovering from that, while I was getting my hips back in action again, to pass the time I started doing breakdowns. And eventually they just started growing and growing and growing. Eventually I went to the Harvard Extension School, which is their online program for continuing education. And I got my master's in digital design, and breakdowns and things like that were a big part of it. So it was really just a way to keep me sane while I was injured and recovering from my injuries. And by the time I got back, I was way better at like I did some jujitsu today. I'm way better for having done these breakdowns. Like there's something about, you know, there's studying it, but then there's explaining it, and then there's like adding in all the targets and stuff that I do. When you go through all that work, you really understand it at a different level, and your skills become much better. I started as Muay Thai base, and in MMA, I'm having trouble with takedowns and takedown defense. But I've been studying Jose Aldo. Who else would you recommend? I definitely think that Izzy has great takedown defense. There's something that Izzy's doing to defend takedowns that where he's not touching you, right? He's really good at like the feints themselves. I think are great for keeping people away with a takedown defense. A real old school guy that you could study is Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell was known for his ability to fend off the takedown. Who else? Volkanovski. Volkanovski, if you watch the first fight with Islam, he was really good at using that fake uppercut to keep the takedown, the takedown attempt away from Islam. But I think the biggest thing to know, Jay, is that there's a lot of takedown defense in MMA that isn't necessarily wrestling. So using the cage we've been talking about is a big way to nullify and use takedown defense against a wrestler. The recent video you posted made me realize how goddamn GSP's timing. Oh, dude, it was not legendary. Legendary, right? I mean, I still don't. I would love to sit down with him, or maybe even Danaher, and learn the specifics about how good. Why is GSP so good at this double? What did you guys do in order to make GSP the best double leg in the history of the sport? He still has the number one most completed takedown defense, takedowns in the sport. I would love to know what the fuck it is that they did to make that takedown machine. Jose Aldo takedown defense is the best we've seen. You know, I've never really thought about it, but I don't disagree. I certainly don't disagree. Jose Aldo, people forget Jose Aldo was the fucking man. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched the WEC, but there was a time period in mixed martial arts where the UFC did not have weight classes below 155. And there was a whole other division, a whole other league called the WEC that had all the fighters 145 and below. And Jose Aldo was the champion of the WEC. And when the UFC bought the WEC to take all the lighter fighters, Jose was instantly made from the WEC champion into the first featherweight UFC champion. So Jose Aldo is really OG as it gets. He's straight from the Mike Goldberg era. I don't know if you guys were watching when Mike Goldberg was calling, but that was a whole different era. Yeah, GSP really was just special. I do think that the intelligence is probably what allowed him to get so good at the takedown. Right? There was something about him just being having a general intelligence and understanding. Yeah. You mentioned recently that the naked leg kicks are kind of a myth. What are other misconceptions that are propagated? That you need the hooks for a rear naked choke. You do not need to get your hooks in to go for a rear naked choke. I've seen so many people, they get the back, and instead of controlling the back with a good leg ride or a good parallel ride or perpendicular ride, they throw in their hooks and they slide right off the top. As long as you have control of his back, you do not need the hooks in. Just throw that choke in from anywhere, and then you can figure out the hook situation later. You do not need the hooks in order to do the rear naked choke. Let's see. Top contender at 135. Did he retire? Did Jose Aldo retire? If he's not retired, then yeah, he's still up there, maybe in the top 10, 135. He'd be a good fight for Sean O'Malley, right? He hasn't fought Sean O'Malley. I don't think so. Yeah, he really did, man. GSP time takedowns like nobody else in the MMA games. And there's the numbers to back that up, right? He's still has the number one highest takedown landing in all of the history of the UFC. Jose Aldo is my top 3 favorite fighter. I think that fight against Uriah Faber is legendary. He's legendary, right? Like that was like one of the first, not the first, one of the first modern era death by leg kicks we had seen in MMA. I mean, I think that fight alone made like a whole generation of people fall in love with low kicks. Oh, he did. So Jose Aldo retired and came back just a few. Good. I love it when the older guys win. I love to see the older guys win. And he's fighting again. How old is Aldo now? He's much younger than I think. Like, I remember looking up Aldo's age and being like, wow, how is he only that old? Okay, he's 37. I believe the average age for a UFC fighter is 34 or 35. So he's not that far off from the average. Judo or wrestling for MMA? Bro, I just say grappling. Just like I don't like to say karate or taekwondo or Thai boxing. I just say grappling or striking, right? The thing to know is that it's different for MMA, judo, and wrestling. You should learn both. And then add the ground and pound to it. Tips for better cardio. I think the biggest thing is the heart rate monitor, right? So if there's like your max heart rate, and then there's how quickly you can recover from that max heart rate. With the heart rate monitor, you want to get up to your max heart rate and see how long it takes to do that. In the beginning, it's going to take not that long to get up to your max heart rate. As you go on, it's going to take longer and longer and longer, and it's going to take more and more effort. But then you want to get good at, let's say you're at your max heart rate, maybe 180, and then you time how long it takes to go back down to your resting heart rate, which is maybe like 100 or 90. But getting that heart rate monitor really puts data on it. You don't have to guess if you're in shape or not. You have data on it. I would love to see Nick Diaz fight again. I think that long breaks later in your career are good. A lot of these guys needed time to heal up and come back, and I think Nick would benefit from that. His fight with Robbie Lawler, I think I would maybe do that a third time. They've each got 1-1. I would maybe run that back. Oh, Jose Aldo's fighting Batista. Okay. Where do I put Fedor in the GOAT conversation? Okay, it's interesting because there's how good he looked versus the quality of opponent. He had some really quality opponents, a few. Nogueira, Krokop, Mark Coleman. Some of them not the best. I put him. It's hard. For me, I don't have like a person I say the GOAT, the number one. It's like GOAT is like a club, right? Like GOAT is like, GSP's in the GOAT club. John Jones is in the GOAT club. Fedor's in the GOAT club. I think they kind of become GOATs for different things. Like GSP is the GOAT of the double leg. He's not the GOAT of finishes, right? Fedor was kind of the GOAT at being way faster than he looked and having that power and infinite cardio. Like the most underestimating guy to look at. Just the difference between his skill level and the way he looked would just blow your fucking brain out of your skull. Let's see here. Mario Batista. That's Jose Aldo's next opponent, I'm guessing. I should. Lewis asked the question. I mentioned earlier in this conversation that MMA striking has kind of become like leg kickboxing. There are other things. Don't get me wrong. You got the elbows, the spinning stuff, but you're when you see amateurs or even some mid-level pros, a lot of the times it's leg kickboxing. I should make a video on what I mean by leg kickboxing. Oh, hey, Dee Dee, how you doing? That's my aunt. My aunt is in the is in the live chat right now. Good, good to see you here. Aldo could have been triple champion in his prime, in my opinion. He would have beat Cruz and Pettis. I think Cruz would have had trouble with Aldo for sure. I think Cruz's style being so movement heavy, a few good leg kicks would really start to limit that movement. Actually, you saw Henry Cejudo really kick the crap out of Dominic's leg, and that slowed him down. And who better to throw leg kicks than Aldo? Do I think Krav Maga harmonizes with MMA? I'm sure there's some things. I'm sure there's definitely some things that that work from Krav Maga, some concepts and stuff. I'm not super educated on Krav Maga. I won't lie. I kind of don't like it from what I've seen, but have I ever taken a class? No. Do I think it's maybe good for self-defense? Yeah. But I don't know. If it doesn't have a sport attached, it tends to get a little weird. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Japanese jiu-jitsu and judo once had a showdown one time to see which style was like supreme. And judo beat the shit out of Japanese jiu-jitsu. And it's because when you have a sport attached, you can go hard and you get the feeling of fighting without you get what I'm saying. That's why like wrestling is so good. You get constant competition experience. I'm doing good, Dee. What's up, Kevin? Thanks for stopping in. Who is the top fighter in the UFC? Best fighter in the UFC right now. Wow. Is it Pereira? It might be Pereira. Pereira might be it might be Pereira now. It could be probably John Jones. John Jones is kind of unclear if he's retired or not, but either Pereira or Jones. Krav is that if they have a weapon martial art, far as I know. Yeah. When it comes to fighting dirt, yeah, Islam. No, you're right. I forgot Islam. Islam might be the best. When it comes to fighting dirty, here's my philosophy. It's a lot easier to learn how to fight dirty when you know MMA than it is to know how to fight dirty and then go against an MMA fighter that's fighting dirty. Right? Like if you know MMA and you just take some time to learn like about eye pokes and groin kicks, it's not that hard. I but I would much rather go dirty as an MMA fighter than a guy that's just fighting dirty. Islam, yeah, I do think Islam might be the best active fighter in the UFC right now. Have you done a Demetrius Johnson breakdown? No, that's definitely in the works, though. It's a little intimidating. It's definitely a little intimidating. The two most intimidating ones so far have been the Gordon Ryan one, the Floyd Mayweather one, and then the John Jones one. Demetrius is in like a whole other category, though, because he moves so much. There's so much I'd have to focus on. But at some point in my career, I will definitely do a Demetrius Johnson one. Yeah, when fighting life and death, man, I mean, fight as dirty as you want. You have to. I'm doing good, man. Jaden, it's good to have you here. Really good to have you here. How to clinch like Vanderlei? Vanderlei, yeah, that's a good one. I met him. I met him when I was like 15. Really nice guy. He had just had like his face done with plastic surgery. He did a seminar in Springfield, Mass that I went to. Please catch me up on what's going on. Right now, we're just kind of talking general MMA topics. People are just kind of asking general questions. We have a few fighters here, a few guys that have fights coming up. Big Time Edgar and Lewis. Oh, no, there'll definitely be Sanchai. There will definitely be Sanchai. Sanchai is another intimidating one. The GOAT small guys are difficult because there's so much going on. One of the things that made John Jones a little easier, even though he's using so many techniques, is that he's bigger, so he doesn't move as much. These guys like Sanchai and Demetrius, bro, they're jumping around everywhere. And the worst thing I want to do is just be wrong. Honestly, I don't want to post a breakdown that's wrong on the internet. I don't know if I've been wrong yet, but I think I have a pretty good track record. You just don't want to lose the credibility when breaking down a legend like that. That's definitely a concern. But it is coming. It's just the amount of work it takes. If I had like an assistant or something that could help me with the editing, that would be great. I don't know if any of you guys like video editing, but that would be great. Hey, awesome having you here, RR. Thanks for coming by. Great questions. Really, really, really a pleasure. I'm going to go about 10 more minutes, then I'm going to sign off. So if you got any last questions, we will start to wrap things up. To guys that have fights coming up, can we be friends? Sure, we can be friends. Is there any requests? Is there any requests in the house for videos coming up? Oh, I appreciate that, man. I definitely listen. This is my first live stream. I've always been kind of curious about the live stream, and I've always wanted to do one. I'm definitely gonna do a lot more in the future. This is a good way to connect with you guys, because I don't know if you've noticed, I'm horrible about responding to comments and messages. I'm just a total space cadet. Please don't take it personal. If you sent me a message and I haven't gotten back to you, my own grandmother is waiting for messages from me. Speaking of dirty fighting, oblique kicks to the knee, dirty technique. I think they're legit. I think that I have much less moral issues hitting someone's knee than I do their head. The head changes everything. You make their whole world dark. John Jones has a quote about this. Like, he's trying to give me brain damage. I'll give him a limp for life. And one thing I find really interesting is the side kick to the knee and the oblique kick are legal in amateur MMA in Massachusetts, which is crazy to think about. I realized while watching MMA, the kicks aren't as powerful as Muay Thai matches, even comparing them. Oh, dude, I've definitely realized that one has better strikers than the UFC. There are like the quality is different. It's like in the UFC, the grappling level's higher, but in one, it's like the striking level is a little higher. O'Malley feints and kicks are the best in the UFC. I definitely think he's the best spin. Yeah, I think he's the best kicker in the UFC, or one of them. He's got that killer, that wheel kick is great. He's got some of the best spin kicks. Feints are really good. I don't know if you guys have seen, he does that look away. I made a video on that. That's a really good one. And is he the best feinter? It's between him and Izzy. I actually kind of think O'Malley might be a little better than Izzy. He puts people stone dead at 135. Who is the best fighter? I think we decided Islam. I think the best active fighter in the UFC is Islam right now. You watch any MMA podcast, Rampage Jackson, Demetrius? Yeah, I definitely watch Demetrius Johnson. I've been putting more time in watching Rampage. It's good to see Rampage kind of come out again. I mean, he was such a personality back in the day. I remember when he beat Chuck Liddell, beat him twice. First time was in Pride, second time was in the UFC for the belt. I mean, he was just a real character. It's good to see him on the mic again. Yeah, Raymond Daniels didn't take off in MMA. To anyone that doesn't know, Raymond Daniels is like one of the craziest ninjas I've ever seen. He did all the spin kicks. He has I think it's a 720 hook. Like he spins twice in the air and landed a hook. Just freaky, like Taekwondo karate style. Let's see. Prime Dillashaw versus O'Malley. I think, it's hard to know how much of Dillashaw's career was EPO. It's hard for me to know. The whole career is a little tainted. If we're going to assume he was only on EPO for Henry Cejudo, I think O'Malley still, because Dillashaw tended to do a lot of striking, but I don't think he could strike with O'Malley. Yeah, I agree. Daniels has no business moving for a guy that size. Yeah, I agree. He is that's a little something different. Yeah, he was. I don't know if guys, Joseph Valtellini versus Raymond Daniels was a case of death by leg kick. Joe Bazooka. Their guard is also really different. Even with small gloves, they are shell up in their long guard immediately. Would love to see how they do in UFC, like John Haggerty. Yeah, man. I feel like I don't know why the best Muay Thai guys aren't really coming to the UFC. They tend to be going to one, but I who was the last elite Muay Thai guy, like real elite, like that fought in the UFC? Sanchai never came over. Buakaw never came over. Yeah, I would like to see. I would love to see John Haggerty come over. What weight class does John Haggerty fight at? Let me look this up real quick. Class does John Haggerty fight at? Is it 135? Bantamweight. Okay, is that 135? 145 pound. Okay. So he would. I mean, John Haggerty would be a good matchup for Topuria if he could get his takedown defense together. Yeah, like kickboxing, I think would be a great video. I have kind of noticed that to get views, I need to attach some kind of fighter's name to it. So maybe Justin Gaethje like kickboxing. Was you in the fitting? Did you see DJ versus Rotang? Yeah, I did, and I think that it was really interesting, but everyone knew how it was going to go. DJ did well with him on the feet, but I mean, dude, as soon as the grappling opens up, if you don't know grappling, you're fucked. Like you're fucked. I think everyone knew that. I think everyone tuned in to see if they would be surprised, but I was not surprised. Have a good night, Jaden. Good to have you here. I was not surprised by that outcome. That grappling, man. If you don't have grappling defense, then bro, sorry. Not a good sport for you. If you want views, you gotta take one for the team, North End. Haggerty would initiate yeah, I think he would. I think he'd do really good. I just don't know why these guys aren't going to the UFC. I guess the allure of small glove Muay Thai is appealing if you do Muay Thai, but you're never going to be able to take parts of mixed martial arts and have those parts be popular on their own, right? Like you can't, like people are like, why isn't jiu-jitsu popular? Well, it's a part of MMA. I'd rather watch MMA the full thing. The only thing I think that has a chance is this medieval MMA. I've been really big in the medieval MMA. I've been actually paid to do commentary and stuff. And that's adding something. That's adding the weapons and the armor versus taking away something. Like if it's hard to watch Muay Thai knowing that a lot of things are left on the table. I do watch boxing. In particular, I watch heavyweight boxing a lot. I've watched, I think, every one of Mayweather's fights. Oh yeah, it's so boring to watch. I mean, I love jiu-jitsu. I've been doing jiu-jitsu since I was like 4 or 5. Watching it, one time someone told me it looked like two bugs mating. And I see it. However, I will say this: CJI was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed the rule set. I think 3 5-minute rounds like they do it in the UFC is a great idea. That's a really fun rule set. All right, guys. Last questions. Got them in. That I'm signing off for the night. Been a lot of fun. I feel like they come from additional Muay Thai and MMA and think they would. Oh, do you know what? I completely forgot. There was a long time where MMA was illegal in Thailand. You could train in Thailand to do MMA, but you couldn't actually fight MMA in Thailand. That might actually be a factor here. And the grappling differential is huge. But in Thai boxing, there is some grappling, right? Like they have throws. They catch the kick, and like I said, the caught kick is the highest percentage in the UFC, the highest percentage takedown. So yeah, I think they have a good. I mean, if Izzy could do it, right? Kickboxing seems to be able to do it. They have the clinch too. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I think they were afraid it was going to overtake Muay Thai, and out of every country that's ever taken a shot at having a striking art, the Thais really nailed it. I mean, it's their national pastime, and it's like a big part of the culture. So MMA was a big threat to that. Just wanted to say your breakdowns are great. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Really appreciate that. Always appreciate a compliment. All right, you guys. I'm wrapping it up for the night. I'll be back on again soon. This has been a lot of fun. I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate every single one of you.